Hey there, Gemini. Welcome to your reading for this time next year. We are going to jump right in here. You have this joy and pleasure card and this energy healing card. This is coming up in your first row, which is going to represent messages you need to hear before this time next year. Each row is going to represent something different, and this is based off of lovely suggestions from all you lovely people out there on a post I did a few weeks ago. So again, this is going to represent what you need to hear before this time next year. You have the Chariot, the Six of Swords, and the Four of Pentacles. The Chariot is about setting yourself apart, which I definitely feel Gemini is in a wonderful time for setting themselves apart and like standing out against the crowd or above the crowd, right? And so the Chariot is he's leaving behind the city behind him because he resonates with something different and he's moving in a new direction. I guess maybe the challenge that I feel with the Chariot is that you're first, right? Whenever you're first to do anything, basically people call you crazy or weird or say, what the hell are you doing? So if you are moving in a new direction and you're going against the crowd or away from the crowd, that's definitely something you're going to have to deal with. But at the same time, I feel like you're kind of going to be proven right in the future. So if you're making any changes in your life, if you're moving, if you're traveling, if you're making a change in work or business or doing something different with your life, I feel like all those things would be things that you're doing that are kind of going against a common belief, but it could be very good for you with the Chariot. The Chariot is definitely a victory or a success. So again, whatever this is could lead to a lot of success and growth in your life as well. Kind of like the same on that same kind of the same. I don't know where I was going with that. We have the Six of Swords. Six of Swords is moving across those choppy waters, but the Six of Swords is a little bit of a risk. This woman and this child in the boat, they only have the clothing on their back and they're bringing nothing with them across those choppy waters. So they are completely starting over on the other side for the hopes of a brighter future. So a lot of you are being pulled in a new direction, clearly, before this time next year, and I feel like you feel it already, and I feel you already are making these changes, and I would just keep doing what you're doing, because again, eventually you're going to get there and you're going to find a victory probably with that Chariot. So I would keep moving forward. One thing about the Six of Swords is that they do have these six swords in the front of the boat. And the six swords kind of represent the lessons, the spiritual lessons, the things that they learned, all that other good stuff, their knowledge, their wisdom. So they are bringing something with them to the new beginning. And so if you are doing anything new or moving on from anything, it kind of says you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from a place of knowledge and wisdom. So don't think that you're like starting over if you're moving in a new direction in your life. You have the Four of Pentacles. We're all just kind of freeballing it right now, Gemini. I mean, we are all just flying by the seat of our pants. And I think the more comfortable you get with that, the better. Four of Pentacles is like holding on too tightly to the past. And the Four of Pentacles says we have to let go of the way things have always been done and be open to innovation. But I kind of feel like you are already, because you have the Chariot and the Six of Swords. It's like you're moving away from convention. You're moving away from the way things have always been done. But there might be some like little safety nets or something that you have to let go of. And really, I know it's not a good answer, but I think people who get comfortable being uncomfortable right now are going to be the most successful. And that doesn't mean you're going to be like uncomfortable. It means that maybe you have to do things you've never done before. So you're uncomfortable because you have to learn something new. It means that maybe you're wrong sometimes, right? Pluto and Aquarius. I think something people forget about Pluto and Aquarius is the risk of exposure. It is the risk of saying something and being wrong. It is the risk of speaking up at work and people calling you stupid, stuff like that. And so I feel the Four of Pentacles is saying, like, don't worry about that. Don't let go of those safety nets where you try to protect yourself. And that's what I would do. With the Chariot, here you go. You have the Six of Swords, basically just saying what I said. Whenever this happens, I feel that this is just confirmation for the message. It's just the universe is saying, I meant what I said. Gemini is moving forward and moving on. With the Six of Swords, you have the Seven of Wands. I feel like you have to stop saying you're not ready for something, is what I feel here. Sometimes I feel that the Seven of Wands says there will never be a perfect moment to do anything. He has two different shoes on, or a shoe and a boot on here, and it kind of says that he had to rush out of his home to defend his position at the top of this hill, and he didn't necessarily feel ready to do that, but really there never was a good time for him to do it in the first place. So the Seven of Wands kind of says that you're making moves, and maybe you're not making these moves at the perfect time. It's kind of funny as well, Gemini, because I'm like getting the words like off tempo. Like there are some things, and I feel like this is something that you've noticed in your life as well before. It's like, I think what happens to Gemini a lot of times is that you'll like have an idea, you'll start to work on it, then you'll give up on it, and then you'll see someone else doing it in the future, for example, right? Where like you came up with an idea and then like someone else comes up with the same idea. Not that they stole it, more that they picked up on it in the collective consciousness, right? There are tons of stories. Like the telephone was invented by two people at the same time. We say that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, but some other guy invented it at the same time. But Graham Bell gets all the credit. So, it's like things can pop up in the collective consciousness. But I get that feeling where it's like sometimes you feel like you're off tempo, like you hit on something, but either it's like too early or too late or not on time. Why is this important? I have no freaking clue, but that's the message that's popping into my head. Maybe it's popping into my head because if you have an idea right now, this first row is going to represent the time frame between now and this time next year, before we get to this time next year. So if you have an idea, don't let it slip by. Take advantage of it. With the Four of Pentacles, you have the Empress. A lot of abundant energy in these readings. I'm almost done with this set of readings, and I've noticed a ton of abundance. The readings haven't been perfect, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There have definitely been challenges between now and this time next year, and I don't think we're in a perfect time. But that doesn't mean we can't have abundance. That doesn't mean we have to suffer. So, again, I think there's a lot of opportunity in this time that we are in, and I would be taking advantage of those abundant opportunities. The Empress is also about ease, and this is another theme that I have noticed in the readings, is that we should be focusing on efficiency. I said this in the 2025 readings, the yearly readings that I did at the beginning of the year, that I felt like the key word for 2025 was efficiency. This is one of the reasons why. She doesn't necessarily work hard. She does what is efficient. And so I would make sure that in all the work that you're doing in all areas of your life, that you're kind of doing what works and doing things in an efficient way. If you do that, you're going to feel like an empress. You're going to feel abundant and successful and like you can take care of yourself. If you're struggling, then you're not. Next, we are going to look at big money shifts or in career or finance that could be coming in for you. And if you're retired, this could be like your retirement or something like that. You have this exchanging gifts card and this time to go card. Yeah, it's like time to make a decision and commit to something. This time to go card is kind of like my purgatory card in this deck. She is stuck between worlds. So there's a doorway at the end of the card there that you can kind of see on that time to go card. And I feel this is saying okay, you've been, the example I always give is it's like you've been to college. It's like maybe the past many years of your life, you've been training and learning and educating yourself, but now it's time to get into the real world and get a career. And I'm not saying this is a career. It could be anything. It could be a business. Even if you're retired, it's like maybe you've been learning how to invest, or maybe you've been learning about some place you could move that would be cheaper and you could live off your, pension or whatever for less money or something like that. It's like you've been learning something. And now it's time to, where the rubber meets the road, it's time to go for it with this card. There could be financial gifts. Kind of the weird thing that's popping into my head for you, Gemini, is that I feel that this time next year, but even maybe a little bit earlier, so we'll say maybe 2026, just in general, for you, will be a year where there could be random little opportunities that pop up that could make you side money, and that could be the gifts that are coming in. So I would take advantage of those, even if they happen right now this year. I would take advantage of those side hustle opportunities or those side opportunities. But the other thing I'm getting here, Gemini, is that I think that there could be opportunities of side hustle ideas that turn into something much bigger as well. So where you're not always chasing your tail. The I think side hustles are good for most people, but the problem with side hustles is sometimes you can chase your tail. You're just like having to always do something to, keep it going. And so there might be opportunities coming up in the future where you could kind of turn it into more of a business, right? It's like I always say to people, a business should be something that doesn't require you. And, I don't consider this channel for a business, for example, because to me, it requires me to show up every single day, right? But you could be turning something like that is like a side hustle into a business by making it so that it doesn't require you. You could be hiring people. You could be using AI, right? Like AI is taking off at lightning speed, and regardless of how you feel about it, I say if you can't beat them, join them, right? And so it's like, regardless of how you feel, there are probably going to be tools that come up that could allow you to turn a side hustle into a business. Who the hell knows, right? I don't know. Our minds are going to be blown over the next several years. I don't even try to predict it because crazy stuff is going to happen, and some of those things will be good. So I would take advantage of those things. You have the Seven of Cups, the Knight of Cups, and the Devil. A lot of confusion, energy. I just think there's a lot going on with the Seven of Cups. So the Seven of Cups has come up a lot. Personally, I think the Seven of Cups is a good card. He's spoiled for choice, but it can be confusing. You can look at something and you could see the good and the bad, right? There are good things and bad things in these cups. So if you have the Ace of Wands right next to this card. So if you're being inspired to do something new in your life or move in a new direction, your first thoughts might be good and bad. You could say like, well, if I do this, it could be good, but it could also be a disaster. And when we go back and forth like that, we just never get started. So, I think the Ace of Wands is saying, don't think about things too long, right? I think we can make tiny little investments in things where we don't, where we can, put something out into the world and we can test it without having it ruin our lives, right? Like business ideas, for example. You can try your business on a very small level. You can prove it before you even get started. And if you do that, then you're not making an investment. You're not going to lose money, right? So I kind of feel the Seven of Cups is saying, don't just dream about things, set out to prove them on a small level. And if you do that, you'll discover things that will work. And that's what I would be doing there. You have the Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups can be a knight in shining armor. Your last row is going to be your love row, but there could be love coming in for you. This could also just say that you're in a very dreamy time, which with the Seven of Cups, I would definitely say that you are in a dreamy time financially where you could be having a lot of different ideas. I think what's going to be important for you is testing something on a very small level and not over investing in things that could work or might not work. So instead of being in that Seven of Cups mode, I would enter into more of a testing mode, more of a like just try something and see where it goes. Same thing with the Devil that you have below the Knight of Cups. The Devil can represent trapped creativity. These people have these animal horns on their heads. And animal horns represent their baser instincts. It represents root chakra energy. They have this creative idea. But I always say sometimes I feel with the Devil, we have to bring those ideas up to our heads and we have to like express it out into the world. So don't just let creativity be trapped. We are in a very creative time. People, I think, forget that Pluto in Aquarius is creativity. People think of it as innovation, the collective, things like that, which is all true. But it's also creativity. Part of being innovative is being creative. And so I don't, if you have creative, innovative ideas, I would be trying them and don't let them stay trapped and, just see where they go. And that could really change your financial future here. Yes, with the Seven of Cups, you have the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is lying, cheating, stealing, but he is doing something. He is stealing those swords from an army in the background. So he is going to war, but in a different way. And this was a major theme for people in 2025. You are the only person that has had the Seven of Swords, I think, for 2026, for this time next year. So, this could be a major theme for you. Part of me believes that this is kind of a very Gemini card. Gemini is very good at seeing other ways of doing things. So, it kind of makes sense that it would come up. But, your unique ideas, we kind of said this with the Chariot and the Six of Swords, that you're going away from the crowd. The crowd is going one way. You're going the other direction. Very Gemini thing to do. But doing that is like your superpower right now. And I would, don't be afraid to try to do things in a way that no one does them. Be innovative. With the Knight of Cups, you have the Queen of Pentacles. You could be dealing with a Capricorn. Like if you're looking for a business partnership or looking to work with a person, there could be some like Capricorn energy that's coming into your life. And it doesn't have to be love. It could just be a person who kind of helps you in business, or a person who you bounce ideas off of. It's popping into my head. The Queen of Pentacles, I think what's super important about her right now is multiplication. Again, this goes along with the message of efficiency. She has this rabbit right here. And the rabbit can represent fears and anxiety, can also represent fertility and abundance, but rabbits multiply very quickly. I am a huge fan, not just this year, but also for like the next 10 years, of pretty much everyone focusing on the things that multiply. And I know that sounds simple, but like literally when I was younger, I had a marketing agency, and the only thing I did is go into businesses and look at what they're doing and just pay attention to what was working, believe it or not, right? Made a lot of money doing that. And so even very successful businesses do not know what is working. So people don't pay attention, right? We have to pay attention to our results. And the Queen of Pentacles says, you have to be resourceful. You have to look at what's working in business. Even if you're retired, you have to look at your finances and what's working, what's not working, and multiply the things that are working. And if you do that, things will be very successful for you. With the Devil, you have the Ace of Pentacles. It's like I feel a million things here, Gemini, if I'm being honest with you. Number one, I feel like there could be some really solid opportunities coming in for you as far as your finances are concerned. Number two, with the Seven of Swords and the Devil and the Ace of Pentacles, I would be careful of like selling your soul to something. It's definitely popping into my head. Like I think that, it's kind of like popping into my head that there are going to be so many opportunities that you don't have to accept the bad ones, right? And same thing with like client work as well. It's like, as someone who has worked with clients, I think if you do client work, sometimes like there are those clients that are just a pain in the ass. And I feel like this is saying you don't have to work with those people. You can be kind of choosy, not only this year, but, when we get to this time next year. So it's like, don't sell your soul to work with a person. That's definitely popping into my head. But I also feel good about this because, again, if you're working on something creative that has a creative twist to it, that there could be a ton of growth in whatever that is. So I would be focusing on things that grow or things that could grow with the Ace of Pentacles. Next, we're going to look at what you need to hear. We're also going to be looking at any challenges that pop up in this row, and we'll see what comes up. You have this Endless Possibilities card and this Healing the Heart card, which is amazing. The Endless Possibilities card I love because, it says there are so many possibilities. Exactly what I said on that Devil. It's like you don't have to sell your soul for one opportunity. I don't know. I kind of feel like that could be happening next year for you, Gemini. So definitely something you're going to want to remember. Like, remember this reading or write yourself a note that, if you get an opportunity next year where it feels like you're selling your soul, you probably shouldn't do it. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like it might be money. It might be a good amount of money, but also maybe you would hate it. Or maybe you would hate yourself if you took the opportunity, or maybe it would just be an energy vampire. It would just drain your energy. And, I really feel the reading is saying that there are so many good opportunities that they'll make up for that one that you skip, right? So I kind of get that energy here. I feel like the Endless Possibilities is just also your energy. It's like Gemini, again, I think Gemini is very good at coming up with a lot of different ideas. So all things can work, and I would just commit to them. The Healing the Heart card, I do think we're just in a good time to heal our hearts, pretty much everyone. So anything you can do to heal your heart would probably be a good thing. You have the Ace of Wands, the Hierophant, and the Five of Cups. Creativity with the Ace of Wands as well. So creativity is going to be your best friend, Gemini. Ace of Wands is out with the old and with the new. I have noticed in these readings, again, I'm almost done with these readings, and like everybody has had multiple aces. So it could be an amazing time for new beginnings, or it could just be that people are kind of like doing new things with their life or moving in new directions. Chariot, Six of Swords, also coming up in your reading. But I kind of feel this is more saying that you need to ground your reality or ground your creativity because of the Hierophant. The Hierophant, he communicates with heaven and earth, but he's able to translate the messages from heaven down to earth. That's what you're doing with your creativity. I think you're kind of like channeling almost creative ideas, but the trick is to come down. And that's where the blessings will come from. He is blessing these two people in front of him. That symbol right there represents a blessing. And he has these two people. But to get those blessings, I think that it's going to be your job to translate that creativity and turn it into something real in the real world. And that's what I would be doing this year. or I should say next year, and this year. Really, there's no reason you couldn't do it this year. I also think that you're getting back to your outside the box thinking. Gemini is very outside the box, so the Hierophant can say maybe you've been feeling off for the past couple of years because things have been more inside the box, and maybe your creativity hasn't been appreciated, or maybe you just haven't had the freedom. And I kind of feel that you are getting back to your Gemini self here. It is a very Gemini reading, if you think about it. You don't really have any cards that represent Gemini, but it's like the energy itself is a very Gemini kind of vibe to it. So I like it. You have the Five of Cups. Yeah, letting go of regrets. I do feel this energy for some people. I'm not sure what it is really, but even I feel this, that it's like there are some things that I wish I would have known, like back in the day. And, the Five of Cups is regrets, but sometimes I feel like the Five of Cups is more like I wish I knew then what I know now type of energy. And I feel the Five of Cups is like accepting that you didn't and just doing what you can with what you got right now, right? He needs to turn around, see these two cups, then he gets this bridge in the castle over here. So he will be able to greatly improve his situation if he turns around and if he lets go of what he feels like he missed out on. And I kind of feel that for you, Gemini. The other thing I am getting here is that this could be a person who feels left out in the cold with you. We also have the Judgment card here. So I would be careful of any past people with regrets. Like, I think forgiving and moving on is always like a fine thing to do in life. But I wouldn't necessarily let someone back with this energy. And I think there's nothing wrong with saying that you don't want to be someone's friend as well. That's popping into my head. It's like sometimes I think exes come back and they say like, oh, let's just be friends. But really they want something more. So, again, I think there's nothing wrong with saying I forgive you, but I need to move on. With the Ace of Wands, you have the Hierophant again. So like I said, I think that's just confirmation for the message that you need to bring your creativity into this earth. With the Hierophant, you have the Five of Wands, tons of competition right now. I think that we are seeing tons of competition, really. So, what I would say here is that the Five of Wands is about setting yourself apart from the competition. And like I said, pretty much every sign has had the Five of Wands. So it's definitely a collective energy for next year. And again, I would start now. The reason I do these readings for like this time next year, so you can start now thinking about this stuff. And so if you're in a business or a career or whatever, where there's competition, what makes you different? And you are a Gemini. You are very different. The whole reading says you have different ideas that go the other direction. It's like everybody's over here, Gemini is over here. So again, you might need to start like highlighting how you do things, or maybe you need to start sharing or whatever. But, again, I think this is about standing out above the competition. With the Five of Cups, you have the Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords is like rushing energy. And with number one, I do kind of feel this could be a thing for you this year, Gemini, where, next year, I should say 2026, where people are rushing into your life screaming that the sky is falling. The Knight of Swords is my card of like a person who rushes in and is like, oh my God, I heard everybody's going to get fired at work, but it's like not true. They just overheard something and they heard it wrong. And so the Knight of Swords says, and we know when this happens, right? It's hard for me to explain, but you ever have one of those moments where you freak out real quickly when something happens? I'll give you a great example. I got a text message yesterday from my bank that someone tried to charge my card, right? And for like a bunch of money. I was like, oh my God. Luckily, I was smart enough to call my bank and not respond to the text message, because when I called my bank, they were like, there's no charge on your card. And I was like, well, I have this number. And they're like, what's the number? They're like, oh, that's a scam, right? So it's like sometimes when we have that, we freak out all of a sudden, we can make bad decisions. And the Knight of Swords says, whenever that happens, slow things down. Pause. Whether it's a scam, it could be a scam. You have the devil, you have the Seven of Swords, right? So be careful of scams between now and next year. But it could also be a person who's saying something to you that gives you that quick jolt reaction inside your body. And then I always think of the Knight of Swords as needing to slow down in those moments and just really kind of think about it and say, wait a minute, what's really going on here? If I slowed down, I would have known that wasn't my bank, because, I get the number text messages from them all the time, and it was from a different number, right? I would have known that it wasn't real if I slowed down. So that is the Knight of Swords. Next, we're going to look at love and relationships, all relationships in your life. You have this releasing card and you can't make this up. I didn't even see this. You have this forgiveness card as well. A lot of you could be forgiving something from years ago, like a connection, a person, or whatever. You could be finally letting go of it and releasing it, which is great. You have the Judgment card, the Eight of Cups, and the Five of Pentacles. Judgment is kind of like a wake-up call. Judgment is answering your higher self. This is your higher self angel. These people are rising up out of these coffins. The coffin represents their old life. Outside the coffin is their new life. They are being called to a new life. So you could be being called to form new relationships, but this is all relationships, not just love. And some people in this set of readings have had like love, but you are definitely the type of person where it seems like you're doing this for all relationships. So I think that the focus for you is kind of like everything as far as relationships are concerned, and you could be finding more supportive relationships. You have the Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups is about walking away from what no longer serves you. I kind of feel this is pretty deep, actually, this card. I feel that a lot of you have done a lot of like deep introspective work as far as relationships are concerned. And maybe you've said to yourself, like, I attract this type of person because I was missing this thing in my life. It's almost like you're, I don't know how to say that, Gemini. It's like you're seeing the parts of yourself that attract a certain type of person and you're correcting it. I think it's good. I think this is growth, of course. It's like personal growth. And when we stop doing that, then we can attract a good person. So, I feel that you're doing a lot of personal growth with that card. You have the Five of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles is feeling left out in the cold. It really does give me that. Like, sometimes I do, like, I think everybody has that one relationship with, like, a person that they were actually really in love with that just didn't work for whatever reason. And so, I don't know. It's like you could feel left out in the cold because of it still, or you could be thinking about it. But, like, both people, I think that there could be maybe the other person has regrets for what they didn't do. But the Five of Pentacles is about calling attention to your strengths, not your weaknesses. That is the solution to the card. So we have to focus on the positive and say, even though I really love this person, I learned a lot, and now I can move on to something new. Yes, with the Judgment card, you have the Ace of Wands. Yeah, the more creative you can be at this time, the more you can use your Gemini superpower of looking at both sides and coming up with unique ideas and unique solutions, the better this year. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Ten of Wands. It's like I feel like you just don't want to invite chaos into your life, which is good. That's not a bad thing. It's like I feel like you're saying to yourself, you know what? I have enough bullshit on my plate to deal with. I don't need someone else's, right? I don't need to deal with someone else's problems. If anything, I think if anything, we could all benefit from a person who makes our life easier, not harder, right? And so I kind of feel you're very focused on that at this time. I don't even think you're focused on love this time next year. That doesn't mean you don't have it. That doesn't mean that you're not looking for it or that you're not going to find it. It's just not a focus, which actually I think is a good thing. I think when we're not focusing on it, that's probably when we find something really freaking good, right? With the Five of Pentacles, you have the Four of Wands, marriage. So we have the Hierophant twice, which could be marriage, and we have the Knight of Cups, which could be a knight in shining armor. And the Four of Wands can be marriage. So again, if you do want love, definitely still possible for you to find love, of course. It's always possible. But the Four of Wands is a card of freedom. And, the Four of Wands with that Five of Pentacles could say you are setting yourself free from those things that made you feel weak in connections, and that would be a good thing. Next, you have this Death card. It says, pay attention to your work. Kind of like I just said, I think this time next year, you're probably just more focused on work, and that doesn't look like too bad of a thing in this reading. You have this Dark Woman card. It says, dealings or relationships with a woman with dark complexion or hair. You have this Lobster card. It says, financial pinch. So I would be careful of other people with finances with the Devil and the Ace of Pentacles. And I would be careful of people who are kind of like getting in the way of your finances. I can't really explain it, but it's definitely happened in my life. Like when I was younger, I started my first business when I was 16. I had a fish tank cleaning business. And even then, it's like there were people where it's like, I don't think their intentions were wrong necessarily, but I had people that would try to get in the way. They would be like, well, what are you going to do in the future? What if this fails? What if this happens? What if that happens? Like trying to get me to go get a real job, right? I am not the type of person that can have a real job, right? I don't do well with authority, right? So, I am my own authority, Gemini. And it's like, if I listened to those people, I would have never been successful, right? So that's what I feel here. I feel like this is like other people that are telling you what to do, and I would just be careful of that. You have this bowl card. It says plenty of material things. There you go. So there's tons of success available to you, tons of abundance, Empress. This abundance is going to come through creative ideas, Gemini. You could even be doing creative work. You could be like writing or doing art or something like that. So, I think that there could be a lot of success for you in that. You have this butterfly. It says a change for the better, which is great. So this time next year will be a change for the better, which of course is a good thing. You have this horse card. It says short journey on it. Yeah, I think that, exploration is great energy for you, especially your opposite sign, Sagittarius. I think that as we should be working with our opposite sign energy. So any adventures, any fun things that you can go do, anything you can explore, chariot, going on adventures, setting yourself apart, all of that is going to be very good, Gemini. But this is pretty good, pretty straightforward. I like it. So thank you for being here, and definitely enjoy this time next year.